Dear Dharma friends and all practitioners, to the patriarchs, we always focus on the practice. Based on the practice, we don't trying to practice. We don't differentiate. We don't attach to anything. We're using the means from the Buddha and the prajna, wisdom, mind, to stay away from all the attachments. And we need to practice in order to stay away from all of those attachments. So based on the explanations, based on understanding, we're using the means from the Buddha to cultivate our mind, to control our mind. Because all sentient beings always want to understanding, to run after the knowledge. That's why the Buddha used the means to help sentient beings to practice, to go back to their Buddha nature. That's why in the Patriarch Zen, they use the analytic mind or the mind of knowing to practice. But in the Patriarch Zen, we're using the not knowing aspect of the mind by asking the questions and raising doubts. When we have the doubt, we can stay away from the attachments. We stay away from the objective and subjective aspects of our mind. When an analytic mind facing with the not knowing aspect of mind, it will create the doubt. And if we focus on the doubt, we are going back to reflect ourselves to our Buddha nature. So in order to get enlightenment, to see our own Buddha nature, we must detach ourselves from all of those ignorance, all of those knowledge. If we base on the knowledge and attach ourselves to the knowledge, we won't be able to reach our goal. That's why the Buddha using the skillful means to help our practitioners to practice in order to reach the enlightenment. Unlike a normal person who always run after the understanding of words or attach themselves to the ignorance, attach themselves to all of the words and explanations, and they won't be able to walk to practice on the right path. It's not only the new practitioners, the old practitioners are the same. Just because of our habits, our ignorance, it's harder for us to approach our Buddha nature because of the attachment to the wrong Dharma or wrong directions. That's why we won't be able to reach our goal. The Buddha and the patriarchs always encourage us to detach ourselves from all the thinking going on in the mind by doing the practice, doing the meditations. They remind us always to go back to our original mind and practice. Don't attach ourselves to the ego, to the understanding, to the knowledge, because if you do so, you won't be able to walk on the right path. When you practicing and you feel like you are not as good as other, you are going on the right path. When you're not attaching yourself to anything, you are going on the right path. If you still attaching to anything going on in your mind, then you are not going on the right path. And those are our words for today to encourage you to practice. If you have any questions or want to share your experience, go ahead and speak up. Kim In, go ahead.
Con kính thưa quý thầy, quý sư cô cùng thiền đường đại chúng. Thưa thầy, con có hai cái thắc mắc. Một cái là con xin thỉnh pháp cho má con.
I have two questions. One question related to my Dharma friends and one related to myself. The first one, previously I heard you to have the Dharma talk on the belief in the Buddha nature. And because of the ignorance, we won't be able to believe in our own Buddha nature. How can we believe in our own Buddha nature effectively? If you want to believe in a Buddha nature effectively, you must have a right view. You have to open your own Buddha nature, your own eyes of wisdom, as the Trung Phong Zen master said, that first you have to open your own eyes of wisdom. You need to see through your mind and you need to practice diligently. We don't attach ourselves to our ignorance of those knowledge from many lives. We have been attaching ourselves to the thinking, attaching ourselves to the knowledge. And now when we doing the practicing of the patriarchs, we going against those behavior, the bad habits. So for the Buddha teaching, the right Dharma is to detach yourself from all those thinkings. You don't want to keep anything. You don't want to change anything. You just do the practice without anything to ask for. When we do in the practice, we need to destroy our own ego. We need to destroy our old habits, our old path. And these are just the explanations we need to practice. When we have the means from the patriarchs, from the Buddha, we understand the directions we must practice. So the right view is the right view in the patriarch Zen is no, nothing to ask for, nothing to achieve, and nothing to fear of. Even those are the three requirements. Seem like easy to say, but it's really hard to practice. It's just like the poems. When we light up the incense, we always make a vow to detach ourselves from the ego, detach ourselves from the ignorance, detach ourselves from all the thinking or the knowledge from the mind. If we have the thoughts of having something, knowing something, or achieving something, those are just the cause to go back to all the circle of birth and death. When we believe in our own Buddha nature, we get the help from the monastery, our Dharma friends, our experienced ones, in order to go on the right path. This is why the patriarchs always encourage us to practice in the monastery, to stay close to our Dharma friends and our wise men, in order to detach ourselves from all of those thinkings in the mind during the practice. If we still attaching to those thinking, those knowledge, we won't be able to go on the right path. That's why when we're practicing, we need to be very careful when practicing the Patriot Zens, when we have a Dharma friends to go along with, when we have the wise man, the experienced one, to help us or remind us to go back to the practice, that would be the great opportunities for us to practice. If you stay close to the wise man, you will follow their behavior. If you follow the bad behavior, people with bad behavior like drinking, you will be affected by their energy, the bad energies. So for people who have the strong mindsets, doesn't matter where they are, at all time or situations, they still doing the same practice without changing. However, with normal people, they won't be able to overcome the challenges. They won't be able to practice in all times or situations. That's why we need the reminder from the experienced ones. That's why we always relied on our Dharma friends, our experienced ones, when we're practicing, so we don't attach ourselves to our own thinking, our own knowledge, so we can go on the right path. This is why the Buddha taught us the 3 ways to improve ourselves in practicing. The first one is to subtract ourselves from all of those conditions or bad conditions. The second one is to stay away from all of those going on at the present. So if you like to go to the casino all the time, you need to go back to the normal life without going to the casino to gamble anymore. And then the third one is to completely get rid of your desire. In order to detach ourselves from all of the desires, we must ask the questions and raising doubts, and that will help us to overcome all those desires. Even though the Buddha had passed away, however, his words are still in the sutra, and those are the instructions for us to practice. And when we rely ourselves to our Dharma friends, our experienced ones, we will be able to get the reminder all the times to walk on the right path and practice diligently. Eventually, we will be able to stay away from all of those habits, all of those knowledge going on in our mind. Is that understandable? Yes. Thank you for your words.
Dạ, con kính thưa thầy, kính thưa đại chúng. Bây giờ con sẽ thử cái công phu của con.
The second question is related to my experience in practice. When I'm practicing, I am facing many challenges, and based on your Dharma talk and our master Dharma talk, I understand that the practicing, the doubt is important when I'm using those and apply them in my practice, in my life. The elusive thinking, the sleepiness, is always going along with my practice. When I'm practicing a little bit, they going along with my practicing. When I'm practicing a lot, it's still going along with my practicing. So in fact, I feel like the applications of those words into my life is not perfectly effective. So at first, my practice is very clear, but eventually my practice become weaker with a lot of sleepiness. It just repeated itself for many times. A clear practice and then sleepiness going along. It's just repeated so many times. And could you give us some words of encouragement? So when we go through these states of mind, we can continue to practice. When we talk about the practicing, our practice is always going against our habits, going against our attachment. In our body, all those habits, all those elusive thinkings are so familiar with. They are happening continuously and repeated itself continuously. It's going on in our life and repeated itself in our life, and it makes us to do all good and bad karmas in this life. And when we died and reincarnate to another body, it repeated itself again. So we always base on the good and bad, the dualism of the mind, to do all the things in our life. However, when we start to practice, we're using the questions, asking the questions and raising doubts. At first, we won't be able to keep our practice continuously because we are not familiar with our practice yet. However, when we get used to our practice a little bit, our mind is quiet down a little bit, the sleepiness comes in and interfere with our practice. And then when your sleepiness is a little bit less, the movements of your body start to interfere with your practice. So everything going on during practice, they are the elusive creations of our own mind. They always there and repeated itself. Doesn't mean that we give up on our practice. We need to get our practice continuously and diligently in order to get familiar more with our practice. As like Hua, Zen Master said, that doesn't matter what going on during your practice. You don't oppose them. You don't suppress what's going on in your mind, no matter how much elusive thinking is going on in your mind, how many things going on in your life, you still asking the questions clearly and raising doubt. For example, before the heaven and the earth came to existence, what was I? We ask the question clearly and continuously, not trying to do so, not put in your intentions to doing the practice, but just practice normally. Like we said, Zen Master taught us, if you have a big debt, you pay that big debt first. And you worry about the small debt later. So when we do in our practice, we have put everything aside to practice, to train our mind, and that is what we doing. When we are clear in our mind, we are doing the practice effectively. The supernatural belief or the true belief in the art have the effects in our practice. They always have a place in our practice because they are the reminder for us to practice more and more. The more we practice, the more we stay away from those egos and those habits. Previously, if we are running after all of those desires, and now after practice for a while, we start to lose our desires from, and we going back to our practice more, which means that's a progress. When we said that we rooted ourselves on the circles of birth and death, which means we use that as a reminder to help us to go back to the practice. We don't afraid of circles of birth and death because that's a fear nothing to fear. Anything that we achieve, anything that we see during the practice, we don't attach ourselves to them. And if we attach ourselves to those achievements during practice or any dramas going on in our practice, which means we are going on a wrong path. That's why getting enlightenment is an amazing thing. When you win your mind, when you can win from the real battlefield, it's not as good as winning your own mind. When you're doing the practice, it's going against all your habits, all your ignorance. The more you practice, the more you stay away from the attachments, the ego, and the ignorance. Is that understandable? Thank you for your words. I understand it.